Welcome to Today Matters. My name is Paul Risher, and I'm one of the staff pastors here at Skyline Church. If you grew up in a home with your younger brothers or sisters, you probably heard the phrase, "I want you to be a good example, so watch what you say and how you act." I had a younger sister, so I heard that growing up, and when I got married and had kids, I said the same thing to my oldest daughter. Hey, your sisters are watching, so be a good example. Being an example is just part of life. Today we want to look at 1 Timothy 4:12. The Apostle Paul is writing to his youthful disciple Timothy, who Paul placed in charge of the church in Ephesus. He was probably around 30 years old. Paul gives Timothy some good instruction, and these are the words of wisdom and encouragement. 1 Timothy 4:12, which says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, or life, in love, in faith, and in purity." You know, you've heard the phrase, "Do as I say, not as I do," meaning, hey, don't imitate my behavior, but do what I'm telling you. Well, as Christ followers, we're set to set an example for others, where our talk and walk need to measure up, to be the same. The Apostle Paul gives us 5 areas in 1 Timothy 4:12 where we should be an example. The first one is set an example in speech. Do my words, what I say, reflect my love for Jesus? Ephesians 4:29 says this, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen." And then Matthew 12:36, Jesus says these words, "I tell you, on that day of judgment, people will give an account for every careless word they speak." Oh, that's heavy. We need to watch the words that come out of our mouths. Once the words are out there, you can't get them back. It's like trying to get a toothpaste back into the tube after you've squeezed it out. You just can't. So watch the words that you speak. And then set an example in life. You know, life is filled with good and the not so good. The disappointments, the broken promises, shattered dreams, the death of a loved one. How do you handle what comes into your life? Do you handle it with frustration, worry, fear, anxiety? Matthew 6:27 tells us this, "And which of you, by worrying, can add even 1 hour to his life?" What about the joys and successes of life? Is your attitude, "Hey, look what I've accomplished," boastful and proud? Or are you living life in the strength and power of the Holy Spirit? Committing whatever comes your way to God, turning it over to Him and acknowledging His work in your life. You know, I heard it said, the Christian life is not hard. And I remember thinking, well, he's not living the same Christian life I am. But then he added, it's impossible. And all of a sudden I got it. It's not hard. The only one that can live the Christian life is Jesus. And He lives in me, so my responsibility is to learn how to abide and stay in step with the Holy Spirit so that the life of Christ is produced in and through me. And then we're to set an example in love. How do I love those in this family of faith, the church? And how about those outside the church, the people that we work with, my next door neighbor, maybe a family member? How do I love them in a tangible way? I want to encourage you to look for ways to bless people. Jesus puts how we love into perspective when He says in Matthew 5, verse 45-46, He says this, "But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. If you not love those that love you, what reward do you have?" Well, do you love without conditions? A 1 Corinthians 13 type of love for all the people God brings into your life? And then we're supposed to set an example of faith. Hebrews 11:6 says, "And without faith, it's impossible to please God." You want to please God? Live a life of faith. It's so rewarding and fulfilling. The Israelites had to step into the Red Sea before the waters parted. That was faith. In 1973, I received a call to take on a pastoral position. We were living in Canada, and the church was in California. We worked for months completing the paperwork in order for us to get our visas to come to the USA. The day of departure came. We packed up our earthly possessions and put them in a U-Haul truck, but still no completed paperwork. I did get a call from the American consulate in Toronto saying that they would send the paperwork to the border crossing. By faith, we left Winnipeg and drove to the border. The U.S. Customs officer asked us where we're going and why. I told him we're driving 2,400 miles to California to become a youth pastor in a church. He asked for my paperwork, and I told him I didn't have any. It was to be here. He asked my name. He then said, wait a minute. About a half hour ago, I got a memo about a family traveling to the U.S. He goes into his office, gets his document that has our name on it, and says, "Welcome to the USA." He didn't even check our U-Haul truck or anything else. He just let us enter. God parted the waters. Mark 9:33 says this. Jesus said, "All things are possible for one who believes." My faith muscle really got strengthened through that experience. And then last, we're supposed to set an example in purity. 1 Peter 2:9 says, "We are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own special people." We are called to righteousness, sanctification, holiness, and to purity, to live a life of integrity and honesty. That my yes is yes and my no is no. We are called to sexual purity, to live out our commitment to our spouse, to the vows that we made when we got married. And if you're single, your commitment to Jesus Christ to stay sexually pure. To live a pure life is to live a holy life. 1 Peter 1:15-16 says this, "But just as he who called you is holy, so be holy in all you do, for it is written, 'Be holy, because I am holy.'" My desire, and I pray your desire would also to be, is to honor God with our speech, our life, our love, our faith, and purity. Why? For today matters.